Meet Diamond. She's a 2018 KTM 250SX. I bought her over 4 years ago, brand new, and it's been my bike ever since. It is the second dirt bike I've ever owned and the first two-stroke. It has gone way beyond what I've expected and hasn't had any real problems in the past 4 years I've owned it. I replaced a few parts on the chassis due to a few wrecks here and there, and have rebuilt a few top ends as needed for required maintenance. But other than that, I have never had anything major break on it until a few months ago when I was riding at Big Water. Now, I just want to note, I was just out for a leisurely afternoon cruise. I was being very gentle with the engine. And dare I say, responsible.
Oh yeah.
On one of the hills, I noticed the engine sounded a bit off, so I wrapped it up and knew it was finally time for a real repair. As I said earlier, this bike has gone far beyond what I've expected, so what do I mean by that? Well, this bike actually has 600 hours on it, and throughout those 600 hours, I've never had any real problems or real, breakdowns. I have well maintained it, but when it comes to riding, I'm usually pretty hard on things. So the fact that it's made it 600 hours is quite amazing. This video isn't for someone looking to follow along step by step on how to rebuild an engine. It's more about the process I went through to rebuild an engine. The first thing I did was text my friend Kevin and told him what was going on. By the way, you'll hear more about him later in this video. But anyways, he had me drain the oil through a strainer to look for metal shavings, and I didn't really find any. So I took my bike up to his house and we pulled off the pipe to look inside the cylinder and could see the piston and cylinder were extremely scratched up, and it was right on the verge of seizing. I then went home and pulled the engine out from the frame and took it back to Kevin's house, and we took it apart to make a parts list of everything it needed. It was due for a new cylinder, piston, and crank, along with everything needed to replace these parts. It cost a little over $2,000. Luckily, I've been waiting for these parts to give away for about 2 years now, so I had some money put away specifically for this rebuild. With the current state of our economy, it took about 2 months for the parts to arrive. Once they did, I went back up to Kevin's shop and he put the cases back together. Once the cases were together, I took the engine back to my house and began putting things back together. I did as much work to it as I could on the weekend, but I still had a lot more to go, and I didn't like the idea of leaving everything sprawled out throughout our shed because it's very busy and things get lost. So I called in sick to work just so I could finish it. As expected with a project like this, I ran into a few problems along the way, but they were really minor. For one, I installed the seal wrong in my water pump, so I ordered a new gasket so I can pull that off and replace it because I don't know if my makeshift gasket is going to hold up for very long, but that's pretty easy fix. And I lost a few accessory parts here and there, so I've got those ordered. When they get here, I can finish putting things back together and take this out and see if it holds together. I was able to get enough put together and run it through a few heat cycles, and everything seems to be good so far. This was the first time I've ever gone deep on rebuilding an engine, and there were two main lifesavers that got me through it. The first one was my friend Kevin. He's a really good mechanic and did most of the heavy lifting when it came to splitting the cases. He also helped mentor me throughout the process. Now you're probably thinking, oh well that's cool, but I can't learn anything from Kevin, but actually you can. He just started a YouTube channel called Dirt Bike and Fab. You'll learn a lot of the valuable tips and tricks that I learned just by watching his channel. He's just done a series of him rebuilding an amazing 2018 CR500 and much more. The second lifesaver was having a repair manual. I knew that owner's manuals were a thing, but I didn't know that repair manuals were a thing, and I downloaded mine off of KTM's website, they're definitely a must-have if you plan on doing any work to your bike. Everything's laid out in a super easy to follow, step-by-step order. In the process of doing my first major repair on a bike, I learned a few things. I learned that working on dirt bikes wasn't as hard or as scary as I thought it was going to be. I also found that I enjoy working on dirt bikes almost as much as I enjoy riding them. Sure, it's not adrenaline packed, but spending some time out in the shop taking things one bolt at a time was very therapeutic, and seeing the whole thing come together gave me great satisfaction. It's also really amazing just to see how these bikes work, and now whenever I ride I have the understanding of what's going on, and I definitely feel a lot more in tune with the machine.